So you've been thinking about starting doing craft shows, and you've probably been wondering, what do I need to bring for my first craft sale? We made you a checklist to help get you on your way. After doing hundreds and hundreds of shows, I can definitely tell you a few things you do not need to bring with you to shows. You don't need a mini fridge. You do not need a coffee pot. You don't need to bring a 100-pound printer or an ergonomically correct office chair. And I know this because we have brought all of those and many other completely ridiculous items with us to shows. So in order to help you out, we've created a checklist of items that we think you definitely should consider no matter what it is you make or you're going to be selling. These items are very functional and very useful. So the first item on my list is to bring a table or tables, depending on the size of the show and type of show that you're doing. Now it might seem like a no-brainer, but sometimes the show provides tables for you. So you want to check in advance if they do or do not, if they charge or don't charge to include a table for your booth. And sometimes you can get a free table thrown in and you don't have to bring one. Either way, you should have tables and you should be prepared to bring them with you, tables that fit in your vehicle. And that's our first item. The next item on the list is tablecloth or tablecloths, depending on the number of tables. And again, where there's tables, you need tablecloths. So you can't just set up your table, put your products on it, and expect to have an attractive booth. That's basically like garage sale style. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure you get a nice tablecloth. It doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be something that's very presentable, looks nice. It has to fit the table and reach the ground or the floor. You don't want to have it sort of hiked up like when your pants shrink and you get it kind of hiked up about 4 inches higher than it should be. It's about the same effect on your booth. If your tablecloth's too short, it doesn't look good. People can see your feet, people can see your lunch, and any boxes you have underneath doesn't look professional whatsoever. So get your tablecloths, get the right size. The third item is something to sit on. When you need to take a break, you'll definitely appreciate this one. Check. The next item is a tool bag or tool kit. This is a catch-all. Pens, pencils, screwdrivers, pliers, hammers, tie straps, duct tape, anything that you think you would actually need. Don't be sticking a whole bunch of stuff in there that you're thinking, well, maybe I'll bring this and this and this. That's what I did in the past. I ended up going from a tool bag to a toolbox to a tool tub, and I was hiking this thing in and out of the shows. It literally weighed like 50 pounds, and it was completely ridiculous. Don't do that. So, check. We got your tool bag. The next one isn't the most elegant item on the list, but it is something to definitely consider, a garbage bag. Inevitably, throughout the show, you will amass some amount of garbage, whether it's from your lunch or leftovers from packaging, etc., and you want to be able to put that in one spot and keep it out of sight. I've been to booths where there's so much clutter and garbage sitting around that it's distracting from the product and from what the person is saying, because your eyes going all over the place going, what's that orange peel doing over there? And why is that milk carton sitting there? And is that a ball of paper? So you really want to keep that out of sight, out of the way, and you can collect it up and keep it under your booth till the end of the day or the end of the show. The next item on the list is a notepad. This is a very versatile thing to bring with you. You can have customers sign up for a newsletter on there, or you can use it to take down their information for custom orders. So the next item on the list is handouts. This includes business cards, brochures, leaflets, billets for upcoming shows, anything that you want to give out to the customer to help promote yourself and any of the next shows you're going to be at. So the next item on the list is small lights. Most people, when they start off with an indoor show. They don't have to buy a tent, etc. It's a lower cost to get going and kind of get orientated to doing shows. That's what we did too. And our first show was a bigger show overall, but we just rented a small booth. However, we didn't really think about the amount of light that we would need. So the first day we set up and we had a couple small, very small lights from IKEA, just tiny little ones. They were more accent lights than anything else. We realized that really didn't do it. So when we went home, we were looking around for what else do we have? What could we possibly light the booth with? And the only thing we could find were a couple of small, inexpensive constant lights for a photography booth. And so we took those along with the umbrellas and set them up in the booth. That looked ridiculous and it didn't work very well. So definitely you want to think about lighting when you're setting up your booth, and I would recommend, based on my experiences, you should get proper lights. Even something like a $10 work light from IKEA with a halogen bulb in it 2 or 3 of those and you're set. Maybe a power cord and a power bar as well might be a good idea. The next item on the list are signs. So you may not be planning to print off a sign at some place like Vistaprint for your first show. If you're not, perhaps consider setting up a nice little 8.5 by 11 sign and printing it on your own printer or having it printed somewhere like Staples. The next item on the list are displays and shelving. So it's your first show. You may not want to buy a whole bunch of different displays or large shelving units because you don't know if you'll continue. Or you might change gears and do something totally different. So I would recommend going to some place like Michael's or even like a dollar store or liquidation world, that kind of thing, and picking up at least a few little displays that are appropriate for the type of work that you're making. Next, we'll cover a few things that you might need just for yourself personally while you're at the booth. I'm going to start with snacks and water. Because you may be there alone, or you may have only one helper with you, if it's a really busy show, you might be tempted not to leave the booth, so you would probably want to bring a small cooler with some snacks with you, as well as an ample supply of water. And this will help you stay hydrated, stay alert, and energized throughout the day, and help as many people as possible. The next item on the list is projects. So that's projects to work on during downtime at the show, or things you didn't quite get finished and you might want to present. Now, you don't want to take away from time where you're talking to customers and presenting when you have people interested in your work. But if there's not too much going on, which can happen, especially at a 3 or 4 day show or a longer show, you can end up with spaces like an hour or so here and there that not too much is happening. So you could take a seat and maybe do some knitting or some extra drawing, etc. while you're at the booth. So the next item is a personal kit. This is kind of similar to what you might take when you're taking a little short vacation or something like that. And you want to have your Tums, your Tylenol, your Kleenex, maybe some utensils, some plastic utensils or something like that in there. And anything else that you think you might need throughout the day or the time that you're at the show. The next item is a float and a cash box. They're a no-brainer, but if you forget them, you're going to have a big problem when you get there. And you definitely want to keep at least $50 in your float so that if you're at a show like a farmer's market, for example, where a lot of people kind of go on the premise that it's going to be a cash-only show, even though it isn't, they might constantly be buying with cash and your float may deplete quickly. And you might want to have a couple 20s or something like that in your wallet additionally, just in case you do get a bigger bill and you don't want to lose the sale, so you want to be able to break a larger bill but maybe not keep it in your float. Our next item is a credit card machine, and this includes Square. So while you may not go to the bank for your first show ever and get a fancy debit machine or credit card machine from the bank, you can always get a Square or something similar that is very inexpensive to try out, and it doesn't have monthly subscriptions, etc. It runs off your cell phone. So you definitely want to have that on hand if you're comfortable accepting them, because they really help increase the amount of sales that you can make during the show. The next item on the list is packaging. You definitely don't want to forget this, but you don't want to overdo it either. So you'll need some variety of tissue, bags, tape, scissors, and boxes depending on what you're selling. I know this because for our first show, we brought around 100 bags and maybe 50 boxes, and so we kind of overdid it a little bit, but you want to bring at least a few of each, something that's appropriate for your product. Next up are a few more items that are optional depending on what you sell and if you feel like bringing them. We have a mirror, a friend or family member, mannequins, and receipt book. Each of these can really add a lot of value to your booth, but it depends on if it fits with what you're doing. There might be something that's not on this list, but that is also optional that you think maybe, hey, that's more appropriate for the type of work that I make, so I'm going to bring that instead. Just remember, don't overdo it on any props that you bring. The idea with the props is that it draws attention to your work, not away from your work. Thanks for watching. I hope you found that useful, and best of luck on your first craft show. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.